What's up, Tweeners? Welcome back to another Tweener tennis video today here on the channel. Today we have a very special guest and another addition to our college tennis tour of 2022. We have head coach of Wofford men's tennis, Rod Ray. It was a really cool conversation, a really in-depth conversation, really insightful conversation, I should say, because this man has a lot to offer, not only as a coach, but as a mentor and father as well. We also got to interview his son, who's on the team as well, and another one of his players, Callum. So make sure to show your appreciation by hitting the like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get to 5K by the end of this year. Trying to get to 3K by the time you're seeing this by the end of the month of March. So hope to see you guys soon. And now enjoy our interview with Wofford men's head tennis coach, Rod Ray. All right, Rod, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Philip, thank you for having me. I'm excited to visit with you.
No worries. I'm glad I was able to catch you in between practices and especially your mid-season now. And I wanted to talk to you about your coaching career and what it's like to coach D1, because you've been doing it for what, 20 plus years?
That's right. 20, this is my 22nd.
22nd, even more. That's almost as long as my parents have been married. So that's, right. You know, it's a good relationship if you've been doing this for 22 years. That's incredible. So walk us through, just to kind of get to know you a little bit more. Let's start from the beginning. When did this coaching journey start?
Right. Yeah, coaching journey is probably the way to put it. You know, I think, yeah, definitely as a kid, I loved sports, loved all competitions. I think I always wanted to be a coach. I did some other things before getting to this spot. And I think that was really, for me, it was healthy. Right out of college, I went to work for a bank for about 4 years. Then I went, helped develop and grow a club for 10 years, and then been at Wofford for 22. But I think, you know, getting into it is probably just love of sports, love of competition.
Yeah. And how did you go from coaching at a club to developing your own style at Wofford?
Right. So Wofford, private Division I liberal arts college in South Carolina, great academics. Wofford went in recent years went from being an NAIA program, Division II program, Division I program. Mm-hmm. In the time that I've been at Wofford, we've grown from 1,200 students to about 2,000 students.
Wow.
So it was jumping from a successful club program to a small college tennis program was a bit of a risk for me.
Really?
I coached both teams at first. You know, it was a different job when I took it than it is today, for sure.
Of course.
Yeah.
Talk us through that process of what it was like, because you went from club, both programs, and now you're just the men's head coach, correct?
Right. So we're, you know, and I think as you look at coaching or anything, you know, I've learned more about coaching in the last 5 years than I think I have in my whole life. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm going to learn more this year than I learned last year. It's just it's an accumulation of questions. It's an accumulation of seeking answers. But when I got started, you know, there was a lot I didn't know about coaching. Mm-hmm. You know, I think since that time I've made a lot of apologies to former players, which has been good for them, but it's been really good for me. Mm-hmm. But we've come a long way. We've got a really good team right now. And, but you know, coaching's helping people. Mm-hmm. And I think I grew into that. I think I started in coaching because of the love of competition, mm-hmm. but I grew into coaching because of the desire to help others.
Mm. And go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
Well, and that's kind of a discovery process of myself. I mean, I think a good coach probably learns more than the student does, right? Mm-hmm. Buddhist saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Mm. and that's certainly been the case for me. I'm learning so much, from my players especially.
And
So it's been fantastic. I got here. I coached both men and women. The school had been Division I for I think 3 years. We had great players. Teams were struggling a little bit, and and I took a chance, and it's been a fantastic journey. It's far better than I would have ever imagined. I've grown so much. I think working at a club was really running a business.
Mhm.
If I had the chance to go back and do that over again, having coached for 20 plus years, I'd be far better at that
Mhm.
than I was 20 years ago for sure.
It's funny that you say that, because I feel like a lot of people kind of have that same pathway when it comes to coaching just college tennis or coaching in general. And was there any philosophy that you tried to follow when you first started that you may or may not have still kept in these 20 plus years of coaching?
Sure, of course. I think I think when I started, I was hard. I was I think I set the bar very high now. But I'm certainly a lot kinder person than I was 20 plus years ago.
Okay.
And that's just life. I mean, life comes at you, and we were talking earlier about what are some of the things that's influenced you as a coach.
Mhm.
I think I was out running in the woods this morning with my dog, and I kind of thought about that question. I said, the thing that's probably influenced me the most as a coach is I've got a son on the autism spectrum, and who's a college athlete at a different school, and he's 21. He's 21 years old. Fantastic kid, but you have a child with autism, and you learn empathy for others in a way that I didn't know before. I needed to know it, but I didn't know it. And so he's probably been my greatest teacher.
That's incredible. What sport does he play?
Yeah, so he's on the cross country team at Gardner Webb,
Love it.
and matter of fact, he's got a race at Winthrop University this weekend. He'll run the mile and track.
Nice.
And he's a junior there, and doing great. And I've learned so much from him, and I've learned so much from other parents with children with special needs.
Mhm.
And I think when you think about that, I think I coach highly competitive, good-looking, smart, athletic 18 to 22-year-old boys
Mhm.
who all have some kind of quote unquote special need of their own. They've all got a story, and like we all do,
Mhm.
and that's what makes being a human being in this world so fantastic, is we've all got a story. And although my team, these guys are in the top 1%. Like I said, they're smart, they're good looking, they're competitive, they're athletic, highly driven academically and athletically. And yet my greatest teacher is a kid with autism. And that's been the coolest thing. I have other relationships with other families who have special need kids. And that helps me to be more empathetic to my current team in a way that I would have never imagined.
And that's not your only son, too.
No. So
because you have a son on your team, and that's kind of a good transition to talk about the one that you're coaching still at Wofford right now. So what's that relationship like? So you have one son that's playing D1, I believe D1 at Gardner Webb running, and then you have your other son that's here on the team with you. Now talk to us about that relationship, because that's not always an easy relationship.
Yeah. I probably, I coached kids at the club level for 10 years, and I swore I would never coach my own son. And then, I at that point I didn't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sense, I've coached both my children, in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But the one here, Ash, Fantastic. It's I think it's hard for him at times. It's hard for me at times. It's great for me at times. It's great for him at times. We had a really busy weekend, and yesterday I called him and said, "Hey, can your dad take you to lunch?" And usually when I see him, it's coach. And so he calls me coach in front of in front of his team, and yet yesterday it was just, it was dad and son going to lunch and talking about things that weren't that weren't tennis, or that weren't about the team, were more about him. We've done a great job of that. It's wonderful, but it's challenging, and there are a lot of coaches around the country who are doing it. We know the Sheltons at the University of Florida have gotten a lot of attention. Huge success there. We've got the same thing at Virginia Tech. We've got the same thing at Navy. And there's a lot of other stories where coaches, where the dad is the coach of a good college player, but he's having a great experience. He's a sophomore here at Wofford, and he's a good player. He had lots of opportunities to play other places, and looked at other places, and chose the place where he grew up playing,
or where his dad would give him a spot on the team.
He knew that his mother would get him a spot on the team.
Yeah, there you go. There it is.
That the coach had a good relationship with his mother.
So that's actually funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like it's really hard to not only grow up with your dad being a tennis coach, it's also hard balancing that life. And not everyone gets to coach their kids at this level. And growing up, you're trying to do what's best for your child. And I always try to ask this question when they have someone that they coach that's related to them, whether it's father, son, mother, daughter, whatever it may be. What do you recommend to parents when you have them growing up to play at a high level, to play at such a competitive state? Because we see it on the pro tour a lot. We saw it with Caroline Garcia. A lot of the women, especially, you see that with Caroline Garcia. Who else was it? It was Caroline Wozniacki. You have a lot of women that have that ability, but talk us through what parents should be looking for doing to help their kids kind of grow into the sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the number one thing is does your child like it? And you want your child to find something. I mean, I want my children to have something they're passionate about. And they can be passionate about many things, or they can be passionate about one thing, or kind of specialized, so to speak. So when my children were young, I had them play multiple sports and do basketball, baseball, soccer kind of stuff. And with my son who plays tennis, I mean, it got to the point where he was begging me that he didn't want to play basketball anymore, and because it was taken away from tennis. It wasn't, and so for my son who is a tennis junkie, I mean, I got to work hard to keep up with him, so to speak, in knowing tennis. He is, but I never said to him, and I've never said this to him, you need to go practice. I never said that.
Wow.
And it was more on the side of, you need to take a day off. When he was young, I always said, we're done. And he wanted to do more. And I think that instead of, he started young, but he always wanted more because he didn't have access to more. And so it's a balance right there. I don't think, you mentioned all these great players like Richard Williams. I mean, there's another one, where the dad was, the dad was driving it. There were other coaches in their life, but the dad was really driving it. And, but I think in that case, the dad did a pretty good job of balancing, like, I want my children to be good human beings first.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's you got to keep it in that priority, whether they're playing tennis, whether they're playing, baseball or whatever it is. What are we doing here? Like,
Mm-hmm.
be a parent first, right?
Yeah.
Be a husband or a wife first. Like, and yeah, it takes a lot of family sacrifice. It did in our case for Ash to become a great player, but he drove it. And and I think like in our case, having a son on the autism spectrum where Ash didn't always get all the attention he wanted helped him. I think that helped him.
Okay.
Where in our case, he I was with my team on the weekends a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So he was getting rides to tournaments. My wife works. He was figuring this thing out all the time. So I think, it's like that classic picture of the parent carrying the child's bag to the tennis tournament. And I would say, don't carry your child's bag.
I love that.
Let them carry their own tennis bag, and it's not, now when I say, you could say, who's your next match with? I say, well, our next match is with UNC Greensboro.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when my son was 12, a parent would say, who do you all play? And I'm like, well, I'm not playing. He's got a 12 and under match, in a week or tomorrow, but I'm not in that match. And I'm not carrying his bag. But I can tell you who Wofford's playing, but I'm not playing that 12 and under match. And I think my son knew that was the priority. And I think that helped him. And so I would say, parents, you're not playing.
Mm-hmm.
You're providing, if your child is a good tennis player, you're providing an incredible amount of resources for them to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not easy, but make sure that they're doing it. The parent doesn't lose that match.
Yeah.
If the parent feels like they lost the match, it's out of balance.
Yeah.
Nor do they win the match, right? They can be happy for their child, or they can be disappointed for their child. Of course they will be, but that's I think those are some important distinctions, Philip.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love that. And I can't tell you how many times the idea that parents carrying their child's bag, I absolutely love that, because
it's ludicrous.
It's ludicrous. I totally agree with you, because at some point you have to let the kid start realizing how to problem solve on their own and taking care of themselves. And I guess in your case, when you have two sons that are very competitive and you have two sons that compete at a very high level, they have to develop that individualistic opportunities for them, right? It's not going to come to them. They have to go and earn it.
Right. So we know that, we talk so much in tennis about mental toughness, right?
Yeah.
And we really believe, the science is that mental toughness is nurture, not nature. So we learn mental toughness. It's not just, it might be that you come from a family that's mentally tough but it's really, if that's the case, then that means your family has gone through adversity.
Mm-hmm.
Or your child has gone through adversity, right? If we look at military training, we say, yep, they've got science behind that. Adversity doesn't necessarily make a person tougher, but it certainly shapes them to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And so when your child loses, well, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to let them do that.
Yeah.
You can't protect them from that experience as much as we want to.
Oh, of course.
As we want to. We got to guard ourselves from doing that. Allow your child to fail, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the whole goal, right?
That's the whole goal. That's it. That's the whole thing. Otherwise, it's that's the whole thing. There's going to be a winner at the tournament. There's going to be a loser, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like for college kids, we've got such a great academic school here. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say that the two most important things that a college student learns are resiliency and humility. And you can't learn resiliency if you don't learn humility.
Yeah.
So that freshman who's made straight A's their whole high school career comes here and makes a C on a test, and they feel that their life's coming to an end. Well, they've just gotten a dose of humility.
Yeah.
And if they can learn to bounce back, then they're going to learn resiliency.
Yeah.
And that's life, isn't it? I mean, that's it. It doesn't really work how we think it. We can't draw it up and say, this is going to be perfect.
Yeah. 100%. I
That's
totally
so
agree
cool,
with you. Yeah. And it's interesting with that kind of perspective too, because it's universal. I feel like this is not just a one person mentality to have, whether it comes to tennis coaching, parents coaching, or anything else. It's a universal concept. And kind of getting back into the coaching style that you have, what is that like to coach, or what is your style to coach each individual player? We kind of talked about how you quote unquote coach your son who's on the team, but how do you coach individual players throughout a match? What's that like for you, or what's that process?
Right. So, we're kind of getting into how do you take an individual sport and make it a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
We've got 8 guys on our team, and they all need different things. I mean, they need, and they're built differently. Their playing styles are different. You can, I can say, Philip, who are your 3 favorite players, and chances are they each hit a forehand and a backhand differently from one another. Yeah. They might even, we know grips are really important. Well, your 3 favorite players may use a different grip on the forehand, the backhand. They probably have different personalities. Our 3 favorite players. We watched the other day. We watched. In California, we watched those great Nadal matches, and he played people with different personalities, different styles of games, and so, you gotta be able to connect with people differently, to be a good college coach. And I think, my job is not to get them to, it's a give and take where we have rules and they have to conform a little bit to the rules. We wear the same thing at practice, same color shirt at practice on different days. And they got to do that, and they need to be on time. But one player may absorb a lot of balls. One player plays off their front foot. One's a counter puncher. So to kind of acknowledge what their game style is, try to build off of that. They all need, what do they all need? They all need a lot of confidence, don't they? That's that's it. Is if we have this match on Friday, if our team goes in confident to that match after this week of practice, over the weekend, we lost a match and we won a match. And we had some players win Saturday and some players lose Saturday, and some on Sunday, some won and some lost. So they're all feeling differently. So I've got to coach those guys and connect with them today. Our first practice yesterday was off. We have a short practice at 11. Then we'll come back together at 2:30. I've got to find a way to connect with those guys and say, hey, our weekend was kind of up and kind of down, but I love you, man. And I love you with all my heart. And we're back at it again. And that means something different for each one of them, right? And 100%. And so I think that's I'm a tennis junkie as well. Like I'm studying the game. It's growing. I'm watching what the really good younger players are doing. I'm still studying. I'm studying. I'm growing. I'm the tactical part. I'm still learning a lot, and I'm going to learn more next year. I don't think we don't figure that out. Anybody who says I know I'm the tactical expert and I know more than everybody else, I would say you're a liar. there's no way, you know,
Yeah.
because there's some, but the hard part is the people part, and
Yeah.
that's the fun part, isn't it?
It is. It's 100% the fun part, because it's more about growing these players as individuals and as students rather than just becoming tennis players. And but a couple more questions to kind of round this off, because one player that you have coached in the past that has played on the Pro Tour is currently still playing on the Pro Tour, and it was just inducted into the Wofford Athletic Hall of Fame, Rob Galloway. Can you talk about your experience with him, and what was his kind of transition like, if you knew he was going pro or not? What was that like?
Oh my gosh. So Rob's in Switzerland this week.
Yeah, Challenger, right?
Playing a Challenger. Yep. Playing with Withrow, Jackson Withrow. Good player, right?
Very good player.
And you know, Rob, I mean, so Rob played, so Rob's probably about 110. I haven't looked, but he's probably about 110 in the world in doubles. He's played in 3 US Opens. He's been playing professional tennis for 5 years.
He's been inside the top 100 too.
Yeah, he won a first round. He beat Riley Opelka in the first round. They beat Riley Opelka and Evan King first round of the U.S. Open one year.
Love that.
That certainly helped his ranking. And so he was 83 at one point and had an injury and was out for a little while. But so Rob, from the time he was 14 to the time he came to college, he played 5 junior tournaments in that time. Okay. So yeah, unheard of, right?
And unrealistic too.
Like that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You asked me the story of Rob Galloway. There is no other story like Rob Galloway. You know, there's no way. There's no way that happens. I had a big recruiting class. He came to camp. I had a little money left over. People were telling him, you should think about playing D3. Super competitive guy. His father and his grandfather played Division I tennis. He said, "There's no way I'm playing Division III," and I love Division III, but he was like, "There's no way." He took my little scholarship. He got some academic money and so on and so forth, and his family paid some, and you know, he came to my camp, and I offered him this little scholarship. He had no other offers, and you know, I think he played 5 as a freshman, which was pretty good for him. I mean, our team wasn't great, and he played 5 as a freshman, and as a junior and senior, he played 1, and you know, he beat a lot of really good players his senior year. I mean, he was a good college player. You know, I heard Eric Buderak give a talk. Eric Buderak had a great doubles career. Eric Buderak played Division III college tennis and is built like Rob, kind of long, and was number 1 in the world in doubles for a while, and now works for the ATP. But you know, and I heard him talk at a coaches convention, and Rob talk about maybe trying to play tour tennis. And I said, look, if Eric can do it, you can do it. You know, give it a try. Why not? You know, and he started that futures route, and I think he didn't win a match for 5 or 6 tournaments, and he was playing in remote places all over the world.
Yeah.
But humility and resiliency, 2 most important things you can learn, and he did it, and he's, you know, the guys that it's unbelievable, you know.
It's amazing. His story is just amazing. Just listening to that is quite incredible. I didn't know it was that different than most.
And so the relationship, you know, I got a full-time job here at Wofford. I'm Rob's friend is what I am, you know. We talk a lot, and I got a front row ticket to the Pro Tour. So I mean, I've learned a lot I watch a lot of his matches, and but it's, he's teaching me, and I'm listening, and it's a really cool relationship that way. But he's all over the world playing,
I love that.
having success. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
incredible.
Do you use him as an example a lot for your current players or former players?
Yeah. I mean, but it's along the line, like, and it's so true for all of us. I mean, I think we all lack confidence, but it's part of my just way of doing life is don't let anybody tell you can't do something. Don't, especially yourself. And you're an entrepreneur. I mean, some people would say, well, what are you doing, Philip? And you're like, well, I got a dream and I got a vision and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And don't, that's going to be your battle. Your biggest battle is going to be, don't let anybody tell you can't do it, especially yourself. And, we know that in tennis, in that, you got to have a certain amount of talent, but you got to have a bucket load of drive and determination. It's always about toughness. It's always about toughness. It's always about resiliency. You want to be a pro tennis player? Okay, you're gonna go to the most remote places in the world, and you're gonna be lonely, and you're gonna lose, and you're gonna doubt yourself, and it's gonna take longer. I mean, it's gonna take a while, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, I remember I never used my phone when I'm on the tennis court, and I was on the tennis court, and Rob called, and I was like, why is he calling me? And I happened to answer the phone. He's like, I got in. And I'm like, what do you mean you got in? He's like, I'm playing in the US Open tomorrow. My partner, I just called my partner. He's in Texas. He's going to get here tonight.
Love that.
Such and such pulled out. We're in. You're playing tomorrow, and I'm crying, and he's crying, and we got to go because we're both crying, and he plays and he wins. I mean, that that doesn't happen like that, right? But it does happen. And so do I use that story? I mean, I use it for me, I mean, just talking about that story brings it up again, I remember where I was when I got that phone call. I mean, that's a dream, right? A kid whose coaches told him he should play D3. He'd be lucky to do that. And he's playing in the darn US Open, and unbelievable. And but he was there. See, he was hanging around waiting. And it was like, this one guy, it was hot that year. Somebody started cramping. He's like, he saw it begin to happen. He's like, they're pulling out. All of a sudden, I'm the first alternate. He calls his partner and says, we're the first alternate. Get your butt to New York. When can you be here? I can be here tonight. Okay. Then an hour goes by. He's like, we're in. We're playing tomorrow. I mean, don't ever let anybody tell you it can't be done, right?
I totally agree. It's amazing and incredible, and just so many emotions too when it comes to that. And I'm very grateful that I was able to talk to you today, Rod. I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about everything. This was quite an incredible experience. I can't wait to interview some of your players today. But make sure to go check out Rod. In the description below, we got his Twitter, we got the Wofford Instagram account, we got everything down below. So if you want to follow their journey, make sure to go follow them down below. And I'll talk to you soon, Rod. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to talk to you soon, bud.
Thank you for having me.